Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering wisdom for living on your Friday morning, rise and shine. Wisdom for living this morning here, and what we're looking at here for this morning is simply a topic dealing with difficult people and seducers, dealing with difficult people and people who are seducers who will try to tempt you and pull you into some scam and scheme and some type of lifestyle choices that they do from regular day to day. So this is what I want to look at this morning here as we do our live talk program covering wisdom for living on this here Friday morning. So welcome, top of the morning to you. Hopefully you had a blessed night rest, and thanks for dropping by here with me. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the blessings of this day, for the blessings of rest, and blessing, dear Lord, of having the energy to be able to start this day. Pray that you may be with us, dear Lord, as we contemplate these things and meditate upon these things for this morning. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, our topic here for this morning is dealing with difficult people and seducers. And our focal point is being taken from our text of meditation is Proverbs chapter 16, verse 26 through 33. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 26 through 33 is what we're looking at here this morning as we look at this very important thing for us to deal. So it's basically how to deal in this life is what we're looking at here, how to function in this life from day to day, because, we all have to deal with various individuals, and we have to figure out how to function, how to deal, how to move forward, because often, as I say, you can get sucked into a situation not understanding why things are going the way they're going. All to find out is the person you're dealing with, and it's not so much you or your skills or lack of skills in dealing with humanity. What is just the person you're dealing with? They can make life so difficult. So dealing with difficult people and seducers, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 26 through 33. It says, He that laboureth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. An ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is a burning fire. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separate chief friends. A violent man entices his neighbor, and leadeth him into the way that is not good. He shutteth his eyes to devise froward things. Moving his lips, he bringeth evil to pass. The hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord. So the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord. So we're going to take this section of scripture, and I'm going to take it as I meditate with you this morning here as a whole. So I'm going to take it as one whole. We'll compile the whole thing together and view it as not independent thought, but one thought. Now, I know most of when you read the Proverbs and the Psalms, you can run into independent thought. That means, what I mean independent thought is that one verse communicates an idea, and the next verse could communicate a separate idea. And so for mental gymnastics or mental exercise, I will take most of this, not all of it, but most of it, and just combine it and squish it together as one whole, and take a narrative here that to me runs in my mind. And the reason I do this is that when, as I say, you deal with people who are difficult, this can be a reality when you deal with people who are difficult or people that are seducers, and these threads run through it. And as you look back in your life and you look into situations that you've gotten in that you probably came out with flying colors or you came out failing, one thing you can realize is that the moment you get in contact with certain individuals, people who are difficult to deal with and are seducers, you'll find that it's going to be trouble. It's just nothing you can do about that. It's just the way they function. And as long as you're dealing with that person, you will just run into problems because that person is just their mode of operation. And the only way to deal with them, and I'm going to tell you upfront my understanding of this, how to deal with difficult people and seducers, is you have to first figure out that you're dealing with a difficult people and a person is trying to suck you into something of their own nefarious, for their own nefarious purposes. That's the only way you have to do. You have to figure out what is the mode of this person. And the moment you figure that out, how to deal with that person is to try to avoid that person. That's the only way. And I'm going to deal with some of the difficulties if you're even trying to avoid them. I'll try to talk about that in our meditation this morning here. So, dealing with difficult people and seducers, you have to figure out what you're dealing with here. Because one thing you need to know in life, and I'll try to bring this back up, but I say it now, just to make sure I don't forget, is that there's individuals that you can't get them by a line item or a incident by incident. You can't deal with them incident per incident. You have to deal with them just as a whole, not per incident. The incident doesn't matter. The event doesn't matter. The happenings doesn't matter. What matters is that you're dealing with the person just as a whole, not as a line item. You know what I mean? Line item or incident. That means, something happened. Something was said, something was done, and there's a activity that was going on. You and them supposed to go somewhere, or you went somewhere, and something flared up. Don't worry about that one incident. You just have to understand the person's mode, that every single incident, every single time you deal with them, every single time you come around them, it's going to be the same thing. And it doesn't matter who comes around them. It could be their dog, their cat, their spouse, their kids, their whatever it is, their family members, their co-workers. It's going to be the same way they deal. And the moment you figure that out, that's it. It's just the person is difficult to deal with. Or the person always is having some nefarious plan to suck you into something that's a larger darkness in their mind. Then you'll start to figure out how to deal with this person. So you got to know what you're dealing with. And it doesn't matter who the person is. It could be, as I say, your mother. It could be a father. It could be a sister or brother. It could be a co-worker. It could be a neighbor. Anytime you're dealing with this, you just have to understand. You got to know what you're dealing with. And the person will take you incident by incident and have you spin in your head incident by incident, trying to justify or explain away or so forth. And you could be there fighting that battle and wasting your time. What you got to know is that you're wasting your time with this type of person. So what we're looking at here again is dealing with difficult people and seducers, how to deal with them. And as I say, first step, you got to know what you're dealing with. You got to know if something went wrong, it's not the incident or the thing that went wrong is a problem. It's just the person, they're wrong. And that's just simply what it is. And as long as they're in that mindset, everything will always go wrong. And there's always going to be an excuse for what went wrong because they are just wrong. And again, I'll say this other one here. I remember when I was young, there was this cartoon I used to watch. And it was a skunk. The cartoonist drew a skunk that thought he was a cat, and he was always chasing. He was like a French. The mimic I joke against was he was like a French lover, and he was always chasing down this cat, and this cat, female cat, always running from him. But everywhere he went, his stinkness caused things to die. But he was convinced, I guess, he was a cat or he was in love with a cat. And that's how some people are. It's just everywhere they go, they stink, just basically cause everything to die around them. And you're trying to figure out what's going on. You're trying to fix it. That's not the problem. The problem is you got to get the person to realize that they're a skunk. And that's the problem. But they need to find Jesus. Until they find that, it's just headaches everywhere they go. So in Proverbs, again, 16 verse 26, we're going to take some of this. Not all of this. I'll try to wrap it in. And I'm sure somebody else with more powerful brain processing will be able to do this, but I'm just going to simply take 26 verse. 26, he that labored for himself, and for his mouth craved it of him. So you labor for yourself. You're doing it for yourself, and that's a good thing. And Bismarck is his own desire. He's working for his own thing. And I'm sure you've seen people They're working and they start to get the pen and paper and they start to add, and you wonder why they're adding up. They're trying to figure out when they can buy something and get enough money saved to get something. Verse 27 says, "An ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lip there is a burning fire." So here is that first idea there. Powerful. An ungodly man diggeth up evil. There's a saying that they have that you've heard throughout your life, hopefully, that if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. It's just that's what it is. You see, sometimes trouble come find you. But when the trouble comes find you, you have to say two things. How did it come my way? And often you find that it's an ungodly person that brought it. They bring it, you know. Don't bring none and there won't be none, right? There's a different way to say that. So an ungodly man diggeth up evil. So everything is settled, and and it's buried. They literally bury the hatchet that is used to kill a whole bunch of people, and they bury it. And somebody goes and say, "Oh no, let's come and dig that up." And you'd be like, "Leave that alone. This thing happened 10 years ago. Why are you bringing this thing up?" But it's the person that's ungodly. But how they'll bring it up, they make it seem as if they're looking out for somebody's best interest. They're standing for justice. They're standing for whatever. And some things just better be left alone, better be left unsaid. Because the moment you bring it up, you start to just stir up a whole bunch of problem. And so when you deal with a situation like this, what you're trying to do is not trying to fix the situation. You're trying to figure out how to shut that person down. This is how you deal with it. The incident doesn't matter. Because the incident did happen. Something wrong happened. So say something wrong happened, and it happened, say, you had a friend, they're currently your friend, but they did something to you bad 10 years ago. And, you talked it over, you buried it, you stopped talking about it, you move on with the friendship. Then this person come around, they're ungodly as ever, and they bring it up. And they just start the whole mess up. And next thing you know, you start looking at your friend, and you start feeling ill feelings towards your friend. But this thing was dead for all this time. But this person now comes and he seems like, or she seems like, I'm going to use he here. He seems like he's a hero. But the problem is he's not the hero. He's the person that is ungodly. But the person will get you distracted enough that you believe that the person is on your side. Because their methodology of winning brownie points for themselves or coming to people's good favor is by putting down or causing trouble. Putting down others or causing trouble. So an ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is a burning fire. So the moment the person talk, you're like, "Oh man, why did they say that?" And you like, oh. And after a while you realize, oh no, it's just John. That's how he is. He just opened his mouth and there's trouble. There's no peace coming out of his mouth. But the person deflects because they normally bring up trouble, and you get so caught up now into the trouble that the person stir up that you forget that, oh, that's a little weasel, that's a little fox. They just play everybody like a fool because they're making everybody fight with each other. And so you don't get what's going on, and you realize, all of a sudden you realize there's one common denominator with all the trouble. It is the person who is stirring the pot. As they say, you let sleeping dogs lie. Right? Dog is there, ain't troubling nobody, ain't biting nobody, ain't barking at nobody. Leave the dog alone. You see the water and it's very settled, and you can jump in it and swim. You leave it alone. You don't go to the bottom of the lake or the pond or whatever and stir it up and then say, "Hey, look, the water is dirty." No, the water ain't no dirty. Yeah, well, it's not clean per se, but just leave it alone. Oh yeah, but I'm just proving that it's dirty. Yeah, all right, but leave it alone. And that's how you have to try to calm the person down and tell the person, stop going to the bottom and stir the stuff around. There's some people that they're they like to jump into septic tanks. And if you ever see a septic tank, you know that the heavy sludge sink to the bottom of the tank. But there's some people, oh no, they can't have it like that. It's not going to work like that. They're going to jump in the septic tank and they're going to dive to the bottom of the tank and start to stir up the sludge at the bottom. And you'll be like, no, 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 you're going to clog the place up with stuff, with mud. Leave that stuff at the bottom. It's there for the bottom for a reason. That's how things go. The murky, dirty stuff gets sink to the bottom and the clear stuff on top. We like it like that. We know it's there. We know there's these things there, but don't stir it, right? Don't stir it. So you can get distracted and you can see this person doing it. And even right now in our nation, we literally and hope I don't lose anybody here, but we literally have a person who playing the whole country. The president plays the whole country like this. It gets you to get stirred up about stuff that you just miss what's happening. Yeah, you forget. Oh no, it's not the issue. The issue is not the problem. Yeah, we know that there's issue between black and white and people love the country more than others and so forth. It's true. Everything people love. I see people love cars more than how I love the car. I've driven cars that people just love the car. And the car is okay. I'm like, I drive the car. I don't for particularly love the car. I just drive the car. And then somebody who loves the car, they talk about the car. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. They really love the thing. And I'm like, I get it, but I don't get it. I understand what they're saying because I drive the thing or I've driven it in the past. But I don't get it. So everybody loves something more than the other. I'll eat sweets or candies or ice cream or any of these things as natural as I can. But yeah, I don't have daydreams about that stuff. But some people do. I don't take it away from them. I just realize we all have different emphasis and we all see things from a different point of view. But there's somebody now that can use that to split the difference. So notice an ungodly man, dig it up of evil. And if you are not, like I realize in this life, not everybody uses their brain in a certain way. So I could see this, and another person like, I can't see this. I can't. It's just these people. They don't understand. No, there's people who are out there that knows how to start a pot. And they know how to dig up stuff. Dig it up evil. And create a mess. But you have to get what the Bible says. Not so much the evil that they dig up, is that they're ungodly. They know their subject matter, they know to play people. And as long as you get that, you can survive in this world. You can deal with people like that because you understand what they're doing and you understand the game they're playing. The only problem sometimes is they play the game on you and they make you look bad. They make you look like a fool. But you still have to know what they're doing and you have to know, oh, it's a game. So they don't get on their skin because you understand, oh, they're playing everybody. Because it's a methodology of distraction and to divide and conquer and to win people on your side and to get them to control them because you control them with the emotions. And the more emotional the person is or the more emotional the person is about something, then that's what it is. Again, go back to my car analogy. So me and my friend, one have a different car, one have another car, a person that's ungodly come around. It could get me and my friend to start arguing about the car. And then I pull back and say, but I really don't even like either cars that I'm arguing about. Because I'm saying one is better than the other. And the person knows to start a pot and get us to start arguing which car is better. And then I pull back and say, wait a minute. But even the car I'm arguing for, I don't like it that much. People like the car. I like it. It's okay. I'm driving the thing. But I'm not going to argue for it that much because I'm not even into it. But you get so caught up emotionally that you want to prove your point. And then you stop and you look at the evil door that just pull that trick on you. And you say, man, I fell for it. This person here does that all the time. So you got to notice. Verse 28 of Proverbs 16, verse 28 comes down with this beautiful thing. It says here, a froward man soweth strife. So a froward man soweth strife. And a whisperer separate the chief friends or separate chief friends. So a person that's, right, they're whispering. That sounds like probably a bird. But the word froward is describing, I guess, a characteristic of a person that is difficult to deal with, a person that's contrary. Now, I've covered this here before, and many times I find I have to go back and look because we don't use his words on a regular basis. We deal with people who are froward on a regular basis, but we normally probably say, why are you so difficult to deal with? Well, in the Old English, they will use the word forward. Why are you so contrary? The person knows to go against the grain at all times. If you say, whatever you say, the person always like, oh no. Whatever you're going to do, oh no. Hey, let's go out and get pizza. Oh no, I want burger. It's like, all right. Okay, you want burger. I mark that. Next week, hey, let's go out and get burger. Oh no, I want pizza. You'd be like, man. Okay, the following week, hey, let's go out and get pizza this time. Oh no, I want hot dog. You're like, okay, can't please them. Just difficult to always go in the opposite. Always say the opposite. Always do the opposite. Difficult to deal with. It just weary you. You're like, oh man, how can I please this person? How can I make this person happy? Just always and just I'm just different. No, you're not different. You're difficult to deal with, and this is what the problem is. Oh no, I'm just just have these moods. No, ain't no moods. Ain't no PMS or no time of the month. This is difficult to deal with, just because the person does this 36 day of the month, but they just probably kick it up at a certain time of the month. So you just realize, it's just a person is difficult to deal with. So a forward man, MAN, so it's strife. Because what it is that the difficulty in dealing with make everything one step harder. I'm telling you, I've never dealt with a forward person that, because then your question, you want to know now because that's what you're listening. Or you just listen because you listen to me every morning. But you want to know how to deal with someone that's forward. Ain't no way to deal with them. Either they change or they move on or you avoid them. Because they're going to be difficult. So you ask me the question now, which is the question I ask myself. So what if it's your parents? You wait until you get time to get out of their house. It's just until they change. It's just, you just know most of the time you have to think like a cat or a mouse. And you have to figure out, are you the cat? Because you're the one that's going to eat them, or are you the mouse? And sometimes you're going to be the cat, and sometimes you're going to be the mouse. You have to think like what Christ says. You have to be wise as a serpent, but harmless like a dove. Because what you're dealing with is somebody that's, every time you talk to them, every time you deal with them, they're playing a game. Because they're difficult to deal with. So you have to, you can't come to them and say, hey, you want pizza? No. You got to say to them, like, say, hey, you want to go out and get, I don't know, you want to get soda or something like that. And then when you're there, you say, hey, why would I get some pizza? We're in a pizza place getting soda or something. You can't, you got to think so much outside of the box because the person is always playing a game and they don't give it a rest. And when you come around them, if you're going to have to deal with them, as I say, because you're stuck now, you realize you said I do, but the person you said I do to is a forward person. And you'll be like, oh man. So you now have to realize that you're going to lose some antioxidants, you're going to lose some cells over this person. As long as you're stuck and have to deal with them, why you have to deal with them until you can't get away from them. That they're going to give you the hardest time because everything they do, it creates contention. So you have to be thinking 2 steps ahead of them. When you talk, you have to measure your talk because you're going to have to try to maneuver them. Because everything they're going to say is going to create an argument. Everything they're going to do is going to create an argument. Because they're so difficult to deal with. And they go in the opposite direction. If you say go to the left, they want to go to the right. If you say go up, they want to go down. And it's just, every time, it's just button head. So when you relax, that's when they get you. The moment you put on your guard and you forget that you're dealing with a forward person, boom, they get you. And they get you where you don't even prepare for them because they're so in strife, where you don't even look in because they're just difficult to deal with. So a forward man, so it's strife. So the first thing, as I say in the beginning, you just got to recognize who you're dealing with. That this person here is difficult to deal with. And as long as you deal with them, until you can get away from them, as long as you deal with them, you're going to have a very hard time. It just doesn't matter. It don't matter who it is. Forward man, forward woman. If you listen to me young and your mother or your father is forward, forget about it. You just have a hard life. I pray for you. That's just the reality. You deal with person in a work situation, They're your boss, forget it. Especially when they're in control or you can't avoid them too much. It's just you got the first thing you have to say, oh, this is a difficult person to deal with. And brace yourself because every time they stir up a strife, you got to brace and know, okay, this person gonna bring it. So I just need to pray more when I deal with them. I need to pray before. When I deal with a person who's difficult, I just recognize they're difficult. That's just the way they are. I'm just even literally I just whisper a prayer every time I deal with them. That Lord, just help me this time to either control my spirit, which is at the end of the verse, right? So I don't lose my cool, my temper, or give me the words to say, let me figure out what they're doing. Because you always have to be figuring out, like, okay, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Because, and the moment you don't do that, and you don't approach them like that in a prayerful way, they get you all the time because they're going to say something, you'll be like, why do we have to do it like that? Why can't we just do it the way normal human beings do life? Why we have to be so difficult? Why life have to be so complicated and confusing? Because they're just difficult. I'll give you one more. If you deal with a person who's forward and they come up with a plan and their plan to do something, the plan is so crazy that you just see pure headache. It's so mad. It's like it's mad. That it's either the plan mad, they mad, or you mad, but something is mad in the situation. So, and then the second half of that, you have the colon is like a whisperer separated. A whisper separated chief friends. So you could have two people, they're friend, they're tight. And a whisper come now and say, in true context, they'll come and say something to you about the person. And probably they said something because here's the thing with everybody. We all have something that we think the other person could do better. And probably they get under our skin. Like, why did they do it like that? We all have something that somebody, we just don't like the way they do this thing. And every time they do it this way because it's just the way they do it. And they're not trying to cause trouble. No, that's not tying. I'm not tying it here with verse 28. I'm just saying this the cadence of people, the way they do stuff. Because we're all different. I don't mean it in sin. I mean, some people are, some people, they have different time of the day where they have their energy spurt. Some people are morning people, they're night people. Some people like very quiet time. Some people don't like quiet time. Some people like certain colors. Some people don't like certain colors. Some people have a certain process how they do an activity. Some people have different. It's not in difficulty. It's just in style. Not being difficult, no, just in style. If you ask each person, what's your favorite color? They'll tell you. I remember one Sabbath at church after we were eating for fellowship lunch. And I asked this question, which is a fascinating question in my mind, just to talk about how the human body is different. I asked everybody, how do you feel hunger? All right, so how do you feel hunger? How do you know you're hungry? And, almost everybody has a different feeling. Some people feel pain. Some people just feel emptiness. Some people feel loss of energy. Different people have different feeling. And then you sort of figure out that there's some things in life that is not so much sin. It's not Proverbs 16:28. It's just style. It's just the way the person does life. And sometimes they have no control over it. It could be something in their body. It could be something in their, just the way their brain process and all that. Because all our brains process different. Some people, they're very fact-based. Some people, they're very emotional-based. Not necessarily sin. So it's sometimes difficult to decipher all of that. But sometimes when you talk to a person, you start and deal with them. You sort of figure out them because, again, as the text says, chief friends. Chief friends. So these are, we call it best friends, very close friends. And so you know what the person does and doesn't do. And, but say, for instance, now, my friend does something a certain way that I really don't like. It's not something that's going to break the friendship. Not something that's per se even sin. It's just something that they do that I don't like, or it's something that they do that is wrong because none of us are perfect. But it's your chief friend. Then some whisperer come along, and they say, "You know what this person say about you?" And you'll be like, if you, this is where the trouble is going to come in. It's like, why are they going to say that? Why are they going to bring that? If you wanted to bring it to your chief friend, you would have brought it to them. Or you probably have. And, the person just kind of move on in life. And then you go say it, you go make the mistake of say it. So that's why you have to watch, because you have to know who you're dealing with. Because some people, they're whisperers. They'll go and say, hey, you know what the person say about you? And what he says, it will separate chief friends. But the problem is the whisperer. So as long as you get that in your life and understand that in your life, that in your life, you have to know that there's some people who are difficult to deal with, and they're seducers. They'll suck you in to their plan. They're very nefarious. There's some people, the moment they start talking about, like, I know they're up to something, I can hear that cadence in their voice, that tone in their voice, and I know they're gone to the devil mode. You can hear the devilment and the devilishness in their voice. And you know, okay, the snake is working. You can hear it. And I'm sure you've heard it before. You're sitting there, you better not be faking with me here this morning. You better be nodding your head, yes. You can hear the person in their tone, in their cadence, in the way they sound. You can hear them, and you know they're up to no good. And that's when you have to, that's how you deal with somebody that's a seducer, or somebody that's a difficult person. Because they go into mode, and if you know them long enough, you know when they're going into mode. And you know when the devil is getting into them. And they're going to come up with something, and it's going to be strife. They're going to say something to you, and you're going to get mad. And you now have to apply the last part of what we're going to cover before we leave here this morning. Because if you don't apply that, you don't get a hold of your emotions, they'll make you look like a fool all the time. And you'll be looking back a few days later and say, man, they got me again. So you got to know this. And you got to know, again, this is so important. Somebody say, there's more important things going on. No, they're not. This is, to me, some of the most important things to know, because I'm telling you, a person will have you like a fool if you don't know what I'm talking about here. You say, I don't see what is important. You'll be whipped in this life, because they'll just have you like a fool running around. You're breaking relationships with people, because they'll get in between the friendship. Because a lot of the time what it is, they're jealous of the friendship and they want to get in on it, and they'll break the friendship. So you got to know, a whisperer separated chief of friends, and a forward person saw it strive. As long as they're there, man, you'll be punching your friend in the head, and you don't even know what happened. You'll be kicking your friend. You'll be doing all kind of thing. And I'm saying literally, because guess what happened? It's just the person you're dealing with. And the person you're dealing with is going to make it happen like that. So in verse 29, verse 29 says, a violent man entices his neighbor and leadeth him into the way that is not good. So notice this idea again of a person sucking you in, pulling you into something that is just your problem, your difficulty, your task. If you say your assignment for the day is to know who you're dealing with. So a violent man entices his neighbor. So this is not somebody even living in your house or your family or whatever. This is just somebody's your neighbor. And he gets you so riled up that you're like, yeah, we're going to go fight. and you get into things that are not good. You be like, how did I get here? You got to know who you're dealing with. And you got to know that this person, they're just them. They like to mix it up. They like to fight. They like to get into arguments, whether it be violent fights or, screaming matches and stuff like that. So that's what that person does. So the moment you understand what that person does, you're like, yeah, you ain't tempting me. I'm going to pull away from you. Because you get sucked into it. They start to talk about certain things and they get you riled up. And the moment you get to rile up, you realize their mode of uprising is to fight. And you don't get sucked into this. I'm going to tell you something. It will happen over and over again. There's a text that says, where there's no talebearer, the trouble stops. So somebody say, is it the trouble is the problem? No, the problem is not the trouble. It's the problem is the talebearer. It's a person that they bring the trouble, because the moment the person is removed, or you start to notice, wait a minute, when this person is not around, everything is peaceful. When this person comes back, trouble. Person remove, peaceful. Person come back, trouble. After a certain amount of cycles of that, you realize, oh, it's the person. But you believe, oh no, we're fighting for truth. Because I think that's why so many people are into, they spend all that time on certain type of topics. And I've learned to realize it's not so much that they're so gun-ho for the truth because we will be defenders of truth. No. It's not so much they're gun-ho because they want to speak truth to power. No. It's not so much they're gun-ho because they want to expose the Antichrist, or they want to expose the beast, or they want to expose the false prophet, and they want to show that the church is in error and the church leaders are wicked and all that. It's because they are cantankerous. I guarantee now some of the most avid people, the people out there that is preaching, you could call them present truth, you call them all kind of stuff like that. You will realize real quickly if you get to know them as an individual personally. That means you're not listening, just watching a video and watching them talk about stuff. When you get to know them as an individual, as a person, and you know them face to face and you've dealt with them, you realize real quickly, no, it's not so much that, oh, this is the truth and they're standing for right and they're faithful and they're courageous and is that they just cantankerous. They just like strife. They violent. This is what they are. But it's only those who don't know them that know that don't know that they're arrogant and obnoxious and they just like arguing and fighting, and that's the mode. Because in order for you to be in that mode week in, week out, you have to be in that mode. That has to be you. Because you will normally revert back to normal. It's easy to do that. It's just easy to go back to your normal mode. If that's the way you live 7 days a week, and say I live like this, I live a certain way 7 days a week, and then I preach, probably for a week or two, I'll just after a while I go back to mode. Because that's my focus. My focus is my focus. Like if you listen to me, you could tell to a certain degree my focus. Because when I'm presenting here, I have to be quite serious. So there's a level that I go to that is not per se in my cadence. But the topic, the things I'm interested in, you can tell to a certain degree. But the person who could tell more who's talking is the person who deal with me personally. Because they would know, okay, that's his mode. And they will know, well, he's not fully in mode now. So that's just the reality. Because when you're presenting, you go in more professional mode. You don't go in your more relaxed conversation. And you could tell about my relaxed conversation because, again, like even this morning here, Fridays I do more freestyle than I do a presentation. You notice I bring less text to bear on Fridays. Because Friday is my meditation. Literally, I'm talking to you as if almost I'm talking to you in person. So you can know mode. So I'm want you to get this because I want you to live life not as a fools but as wise people. A violent person entices his neighbor. He suck his neighbor in. And all of a sudden the end part there says, and the neighbor get into ways that are not good. And they'll be like, how did I get here? You've been seduced. There's a seducer there. This person here will suck you in. And as long as you know this in life, you can protect yourself, because the only protection, the only way you deal with people that are difficult is to just know. First thing, you have to recognize who you're dealing with. You deal with a person that is forward, they're difficult to deal with. And you got to brace yourself, because they're going to either suck you in or they're going to get you into trouble. Because everything they say, everything they do, it just causes you to just be like, oh man, why are you so difficult? And that's the reality. In verse 30 it says, he shutteth his own eyes to devise forward things. Moving his lips, he bringeth evil to pass. And you've seen this many a time. You're talking to a person hearing something, and they put their hand over their face, and they'll be like, oh man. You're telling them to do something right, and it's difficult to them. They say, oh, I'm going to pray about it. That's trouble. Every time I ever hear a person say, I'm going to pray about it. Because when they're ready to do their wickedness, they're not praying. But now you tell them to do something right. Oh man, I'm going to pray about it. Right? Now you can hear the hypocrisy just turning in their head, the wheels turning. And as they do this, he says, the Bible said they close their eyes. And as they close their eyes, they open up and the mouth start moving. And it says, moving his lips, he bringeth evil to pass. Because the moment he opens his mouth, oh man, here it goes. Because if there's nothing good going to come out of it. Because it's always the scheming and the scamming, and they close their eyes so that you can scam something up. And this is what you have to know. So when you know this move, or you've seen this move, you see it 1,000 times. To do evil, oh, no problem. Think about how life is. It's easy to get a gang of evildoers to go sell drugs, to go massacre people, kill people, go to war for conquest, do all this type of wickedness. You can get them by the boatloads, thousands. But you say, hey, we need to do something to bless the society and the community. Oh, no, you can't get it. You see a young man, he's in school, he's diligent. When he goes out, every time there's break, he's there, he start to rap, or he start to do some reggae or do some rock and roll. And every time and you say, what are you trying to do? Oh, I'm trying to be the next big artist. So why don't you take this type of attitude towards your book? Oh, no. I want to be famous. I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a lot of girls. The motivation. I used to watch the motivation. It's the same thing with a violent person. You say, hey, let's go bless somebody. Oh, no. You say, go curse somebody and do something wicked. Oh, they jump on the bandwagon. They're ready to go. And most of the time, they're leading you on. And you realize, oh. And you say to them, you saw somebody, they saw a lot of strife. Strife. Every time, strife. You say, hey, you need to do something good. Oh, they say, I'm going to have to pray about it, brother. Let me pray about it. I said, wait a minute. So you're so gun-ho and always have the energy to get into trouble, mix it up. But you're not gun-ho to do something for the Lord. Everything that you need to do for the Lord, you have to pray about it. But now, I have to fast and pray to do the right thing. But to do evil, oh no, I'm ready right now. Let's get it on. And you see these things, and they think they're having everybody whipped because they say they're going to pray about it. It's like, yeah, you need to fast and pray to do the right thing. But to do evil, you don't have to fast and pray. Now, hear now this text now, verse 31, Proverbs 16, verse 31. Now, watch this text. How now, to me, it's all part of the same thing. You can make it part of the same thing. This principle here, verse 31, is a massive principle, and it's important for you to know it. And here it goes. It says, the hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. So the hoary head is a crown of glory. So the hoary head is normally a head that is white. So gray hairs. So it's a crown of glory. So you see a person and they have gray hairs, you just smile. Because you know, they've been through the storm. They've been through all the experience I'm talking about. They've been on both sides. They probably were one time somebody that was very difficult to deal with. And life whipped them so hard that they decide to be a little bit easier and not so difficult to deal with. They could be a person that's been dealing with a lot of difficult people, and they've earned it. And so you look at that gray hair, you say, oh yeah, that's a crown of glory. That's like a gold crown on their head, but its difference is silver because they've experienced life. So a hoary head is a crown of glory. That hoary head, as I say, could come because they've dealt with a lot of stress. Or, as I say, they could give people a lot of grief. And because they have so much turmoil in their life every day, they turn gray early. Difficult people, I think, gray fast. So a hoary head is a crown of glory. So, you know, somebody could be 20-something and have gray hairs already. And you say, what happened? And they say, oh man, I give people a hard time and they give it to me. So they give it to me and I give it back to them. And now look, puff, I have a crown of glory. But it doesn't stop there, because if that was the case, then you would say, well, everybody with gray hair, they've earned their way. The gray hair is basically a stamp of glory on their head. But you know the saying that there's no fool like a whole fool. So there's no fool like a whole fool. So then, what is all that? The second part of the text makes the wisdom so important. If it be found in the way of righteousness. If it be found in the way of righteousness. Powerful, because it sets it right. Because remember, If the person have a head of gray hair and they're very foolish, it's very embarrassing. It's not a crown of glory. It's more embarrassing. See, it's better to have a foolish person that's in the 20s than to have a foolish person that's in the 60s. You know, if you have a young girl or a young guy and he's acting or she's acting like they're on heat, the dogs when they get into heat and they just do all kind of ridiculous things to be in relationships. They say, it's just these young kids and their hormones are running wild with them and they're acting like animals. They're Neanderthals. Okay, you understand that. But if you have a 60-year-old acting like that, you're like, whoa, that's grandma there acting like, she's a young dog or something like that. It's not very nice. Because notice here, it has to be found in the way of righteousness. It has to be found. So how older the person is, and if they're a drug trafficker, you'd be like, what is the matter with them? Person gray hair, gray till it looks beautiful. And they're shoplifter. You'd be like, whoa, that looks terrible. A shoplifter? It's like sleeping with every young guy in the town. Well, some people would believe that's great, but I'm just saying, it's terrible. An old guy and it's an old fool. It's terrible. I think that's why many people should not volunteer quickly to be elders in church. You're an elder and you're gray-haired. And when you open your mouth, you're like, this person sounds like they never grew up from their 20s. Sound like a young fool. It's a bigger knock because at least you can excuse it. If you're in church and here comes a 60-year-old and they're chewing gum with their mouth open, they don't even know to chew gum with their mouth closed, and they're talking and misbehaving in church and this disorderly conduct in the church, you're like, man, this is embarrassing. But if you're in the church now and there's a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old crawling under the pews because he's under the pews hunting the enemies, trying to find the enemies that he's fighting in his mind, and he's going after the and even probably shooting at the enemies underneath the pews while church is going on. You say that's not nice. That's not very good of Johnny. Johnny, you should come up and listen to the sermon. But you normally would say, well, that's okay. But if a 60-year-old dude does that, you'll be like, wait a minute. Need to be put in a facility. So that's the difference. If the hoary head is fine, not with wisdom. It didn't say wisdom. I love the Bible. It didn't say if it be found in the way of our speaking wisdom. It's great. It says in righteousness, because normally you would think by the time a person reached that age, they would have had most of the sin whipped out of them. A person's gray-haired already, and they pick up a few STDs along the way, and they've, tried to be rebellious, and they've been bankrupt. They have been whipped and beaten and hogtied, and life has just whipped them until they have peace in their soul. You normally say that's logical, right? Because they have gotten it beaten out of them. They have had, they got drunk and next morning vomit up, and they vomit up probably 100, 200, 300 times in their life, and they decided, I'm just done with alcohol. And you say, great. The hoary head now is found with righteousness. But when the hoary head is not found in righteousness, it's a terrible thing. Now, to tie this up to the beginning now, what I covered before is that when you deal with difficult people and seducers, it is more terrible when you deal with a person who's older and is a difficult person and a seducer. And also, it is terrible when you deal with somebody that's older, a hoary head, and they don't know how to recognize and deal with difficult people and seducers. They're being dragged along. Every time somebody come around and say, hey, I have a multi-level marketing strategy that's going to make you rich and be able to have a property in Florida. And you're like, okay, I know the young people, they're susceptible to that because they haven't got it whipped out of them yet to stop lusting after easy, quick money. So I understand. But then an old person like, oh yeah, sign me up. You're like, what happened? What happened to? Why did they not learn? in the last how many years of life. So the hoary head become a more embarrassment. Somebody comes along and say, hey, I have an investment strategy that's going to make you a lot of money real quick. You're going to making so much money, your head's going to spin. And you see all the old people sign up for it and then they lose their retirement. And you'll be like, wow, that gray hair didn't really benefit them. So it is the same way where if you look at it, they talk about in our nation now who are some of the most biggest warmongers. It's the gray hairs amongst us. They like to talk about violence, as it says in verse 29. If you talk about war, they're quick to go vote to send off the young people to war. They're quick to talk about things to get people all hamped up to go fight wars. And you say, wow. And they'll entice their neighbor into this type of stuff. So when the hoary head is found in the way of unrighteousness, oh, it's embarrassing to watch. Also, when you find it, I've been interested enough because I have to deal with this a lot. Because I preach, I'm preaching most of the time on righteousness, character development, and the people who most of the time, well, I'm telling you what, this is how it is. As I say, the young people just go to their devices and act as if they're reading the Bible on their phones, or sometimes the old people, they close their eyes. They just close their eyes as if they're sleeping, and then later on they're saying something to me. I was like, I thought you were sleeping that part of the sermon. So you're listening because hey, I don't want to hear what you say. They don't want to hear. So they go sleep. And that's why I love with the radio, because at least you have the option to sit there and listen to me. And I don't know you're hearing. And, we don't have no interaction. There's a great gulf that is fixed. So you can casually listen. But when somebody's in front of you, they have to kind of like be paying attention. So at the time, people are just like, oh, I know where it's going. I want to continue being whole and foolish, so I'm not going to listen. And they close their eyes. And so here, again, a person shut their eyes and they just lull themselves into darkness. But it's important. Notice again, the ungodly man digging up evil. So if you have an old person and they just keep digging up evil, and you can see that all the time in churches and stuff like that. You see they dig up evil, and when they open their lips, it's a burning fire, like, ouch, that's a burn. And if that's an older person, it's even more embarrassing because, with a young person, you think, oh, they're just young and they're wet behind the ear and they have too much energy. And, calm the young guy down. He'll learn. The young guy will learn. Calm him down. And you calm the young guy. Now you're the young person, you're calming the old person down. That's embarrassing. So this is why this text is so potent. This line of reasoning is so potent. Because all of this become worse if you deal with somebody that's older. You have an old neighbor riling up the whole community to do something evil. You'll be like, man, that's embarrassing. That's an old guy there, and he's a fool. Not good. So a hoary head is a crown of glory, praise the Lord, if it be found in the way of righteousness. Amen. So pray to God that you'll be that person that as you have the gray hairs popping out, each new gray hair you have is a testimony that you are living a blessed wisdom-filled life, because it's found in righteousness. The more right you live as you get older, it's good. I know a lot of people that they stop fornicating at a certain age, not because, they want to stop fornicating per se, but because they're getting old and stuff, the plumbing is not working as much. But if you can be that person, you do it because it's the right thing to do, and you're older, praise the Lord. You put away the alcohol. Put away the filthy animals from eating them. Put away the filthy talking. Learn to go over to a young person and share some wisdom with them. Share some life experience. Be the person to entice the person to Jesus instead of being the person that entice the person away. Think about how many churches now that are packed with old people. Not packed, they're emptied out and have a few old people in there. And, it's just, you're not seeing, wow, man, these people are exercising. They're older and they're exercising. They're staying away from fornication. They don't gossip. They live a clean life. This is a church of gray hairs with righteous gray hairs. This is what we need. But often you find they're the scourge to the church, because the older they get is the more the sin become encrusted, like, it is just like plaques in their life, and it is embarrassing to watch. Verse 32 says, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. So this is where again I say, when you deal with people who are forward, the word forward as is found in verse 28, which mean difficult to deal with and contrary, or you deal with people who are seducer. This verse 32 is the biggest thing that you have to get. You have to be able to know, because there's times you can't avoid. You have to deal with people who are forward and people that are seducers. They're tempting, they're tempters, both male and female. And you got to know how to maintain your spirit. You got to practice it. So you got to be slow to anger, because they'll make you get mad fast. Imagine you have a neighbor that want to get you into violence, and he start telling you about what the president is doing, or telling you about what the secret societies are doing, or what the pastor is doing, or somebody. You get so mad that you want to go and do something real quick. You got to control your spirit when around these people, especially. And you have to rule your spirit, and it's better to do this than somebody take a city. Because when a person is forward, they get difficult to deal with, and you get frustrated because they frustrate you. But remember, that person is frustrating somebody more than you, the person that has to be with them 24 hours, which is God. In him we move and have our being. They're frustrating God more than they're frustrating you. So you gotta remember that. And remember that God is in heaven, you are down here, so you have to deal more than even God. But God is dealing with them all the time, because God's watch over them, hear their thoughts and their prayers, and is not going to strive with them forever. But you got to know that you got to deal with your spirit. And that's one of the lessons that I had to learn, that the Lord had to bring me through certain people, certain experience over the many years. It didn't come overnight. It took years. And I'm still dealing with it, because I'm still learning not to get sucked in to people I'm dealing with in person, or not to get sucked into people I'm dealing with, even watching them via the news. Because I'm telling you one thing, we have a president that is a master of sucking you in to false dilemmas. He'll create a false dilemma and may get you sucked in. Oh, you see these guys here, they're no good because they're protesting America, the flag. And you get like, what? How dare they disrespect this great country that people died fighting wars to make us have these freedoms. And then you have to calm yourself and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And you pull back from it and say, I have to ignore this stupidity. This is great. Because remember, again, it's a hoary head that is just filled with unrighteousness. So you got to pull back from them. And I'll tell you, I had to go through years of experience with hoary heads that they'll get you right up about stuff. They get you mad about stuff. They get you mad about them because they're sucking into their darkness. I had to deal with people who are young people just the same way, who their hormones are pumping, or they're violent and they want to fight and they want to kill people. And you got to pull back from that. If you don't learn these lessons in life, then as you get older, you're just as foolish as them. So you have to be slow to anger, slow to speak, slow to commit. It's a principle I live by. I try not to buy things that I want to buy the same day. I'll wait a day. I'll lose the sale. I'll pay full price. Somebody see you crazy. I'll pay full price. So, but if somebody's selling me something, I was like, what's the price of that? And they say, oh, you can buy it today, 30%. I'll calculate it and I say, I really would want to buy it today, but I'm going to buy it tomorrow at full price. So I see you crazy. Because I learned, don't get your emotion making you make decisions, even if you have to cost you money. Just to exercise that self-will and that self-control, I burn myself in the pocket. Because guess what happened? The same way that person rally up to buy something is the same way they rally up to buy something that you're going to really regret. Or say something, do something. You got to control your spirit. And I've learned it over the years. The more control is the better. And every time I get a test and I fail, I learn if I still have life by God's grace, most naturally, I learn to just try again. Because this is important, because the person who control the spirit is better than he that take a city, and better than the person that is mighty. Because I'm telling you, difficult people will frustrate you, and seducers will get you into things that you ought not to get into. You gotta learn to not make emotional knee-jerk decisions and make them go their way and basically win those battles. And the more you win it, is the more they have no effect on you. And as I'm telling you, it's a lesson to learn in life. You keep practicing, and the next test you get, practice. Just keep practicing until when they rile you up, you just, and you take the hit and you don't get involved. You say, I'll talk to you tomorrow again. I'll get back to you. Shock them. because that's just their mode. Their mode is to get you riled up because they're just difficult to deal with. 33, closing verse 60, chapter 16. The lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord. So you just give your life to the Lord. You say, hey, Lord, wow, man, me today, they're going to whip me today. And you say, Lord, but help me. And God will bless you. I'm telling you, God will help you. You just make sure you know that says, when all is said and done, you depend upon Jesus. And I'm going to tell you, you just put the whole thing in God's hand and learn to pray before you deal with difficult people. Pray before you even go online and read these articles and, these events that's going on in the nation. And don't get yourself riled up into evildoers, especially people who are older that are masters of it because they've been doing it from their child. Don't let them get wrapped you up in this type of stuff because it's just them. It's not to do with what's going on in the nation or in your life or in your church. It's just these people. They've been doing it for years. And they unless they find Jesus, it's going to continue. Let's pray. We thank you, Lord, again for your love. We pray, dear Father, for your spirit, that we might listen to the still small voice, even in the midst of battle, in the midst of being tempted, in the midst of being frustrated, that we still, dear Lord, learn to pause, to hear the voice of the Spirit to tell us which way to walk in. We put our lives in your hand. We thank you, dear Lord, for your leading. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you Monday morning when we shall talk about motivation, how to do better and to be successful. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.